Good afternoon. Welcome on this occasion to the celebration of life for Elizabeth Ehaw. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the communion of the Spirit among us be with you all. Friends, we gather here for many reasons. Each of us bring our own stories into this space. We gather in the protective shelter of God's healing love. We are free to pour out our grief, and some of us do that differently at different times. We're free to release anger or face emptiness or hope, lift our joy, knowing that Spirit, God, cares. We gather here as God's people, conscious of others who have died and the frailty of our own existence on earth. We come to comfort and to support one another in our common loss. We gather to hear God's words of hope that can drive away despair and move us to offer the gift of life and praise and grace and celebration for life's joyous occasions. We gather to commend to God with thanksgiving the life of Elizabeth Ehaw. For whether we live or die, we belong to God, and we belong to one another. Let us continue our worship together.
Before thy hills in order
enter a time of prayer, beginning with the Pastoral Prayer, and I invite you to read along if you would like to with the ecumenical Lord's Prayer following. Let us pray. Holy God, whose ways are not our ways and whose thoughts are not our thoughts, grant that your Spirit may intercede for us with sighs too deep for human hearts, made heavy with sorrow. Through the veil of our tears and the silence, assure us again that ear has not heard, nor eye seen, for human imagination envisioned what you have prepared for those who love you, through the love of Jesus, who taught us to pray, saying, Our Father and Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I now invite those who will read scripture to come forward and share from holy texts.
Hi, I'm Sarah, one of Gran's granddaughters, and I'm happy to read two scriptures today. Psalm 23, 1 through 6. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of the death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 4. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance.
My name is Laura. I'm another one of the granddaughters. I will be reading Psalm 100, 1 through 5. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name, for the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. Matthew 11, 27 through 30, 28 through 30. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Thank you, Sarah and Laura. So friends, we are calling this service a celebration of life. Does that resonate with you when you think of Beth? Anyone? Hands, noise? Right? This is supposed to be a celebration. So often we come to these moments and yes, we are grieved because there is loss and sorrow. But loss and sorrow are so connected to joy and story and love. So I want you to know that this is your time, this is your space. Beth is here among us. Spirit is always connected in life and death and beyond. So I am going to attempt to share some story, to lift up some light. But the stories and the memories and the joy and the laughter, that is resting among you now. So if you need to make noise or you need to move around or stand up or protest on her behalf or any of those things, this is the time that we honor and that we make an attempt to tell a story. We're here to celebrate Beth Ehaw, mother, grandmother, friend, sister, neighbor, daughter, wise and beautiful soul. We're here to share in one another's grief at her passing. and to spark one another's joy and telling a little bit of her story. Life is a beautiful gift, and Beth, it seems, knew how to soak it all up. And beyond that, how to share it with those she loved. She was a servant leader. Does that ring true from anyone? She was a servant. I didn't know her personally, but what I know in these last few weeks has told me the breadth of what I would like to have known, that you each are carrying with you, a servant. She served as the camp nurse at La Forêt for decades. Did any of you grow up going to La Forêt? Yes, exactly, a lot of you, and those as adults who continue to go and serve in her stead. She went to the Dominican Republic, I know, with Beth Ertz. Anybody else join her on those trips? Yes, several hands, David Netzer, several of you back here. Awesome. She served alongside the First Plymouth community on several mission trips. I think she went to Venezuela, is what Beth shared with me earlier. She knew what it was to see need and then to take action. She wasn't satisfied with that, though, with only what she could bring. She recruited others, like Beth Ertz, who says she remembers Beth saying, "They must have slaughtered the goat to have dinner tonight," on more than one occasion. She understood the scarcity and the resources lacking in developing countries. And Beth brought abundance and joy and friendship, even in those places. She also provided ongoing love and care at home to her 3 children, who each have a story to tell about their mother. I'm not going to ask you to come up and tell this story right now, but they will share, each of them, or some of them, a few of them, family members will share with you in a few moments words of their own. She was beloved by her grandchildren. I know Sarah and Laura, other grandchildren here, or great-grandchildren. Wonderful. And nearly everyone who knew her. She was an industrious woman with a heart of gold. She was an active member in what I call co-creating the life and community she wanted to pass on to her children and grandchildren. And I think that each of you would say that she was wildly successful in that endeavor. Whether you have known her as family, friend, or neighbor, you have known what it is to be loved and valued and celebrated. She loved and cherished you and will continue to show up for you in new and beautiful ways. When the world seems a little less bearable, when the day is dragging on and it seems there's no light left to see, you can simply open your eyes to the beauty around you, to the horses in the field, or probably any animal, right? To the garden out your window, to the hands and feet of first responders offering care, to the warmth of a grandmother's embrace, and maybe some bad jokes in there. And know that she is still with you, bringing peace. Jesus said, "The advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom God will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of all that I have said to you. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you." I like to believe that this peace of which Jesus speaks, the Spirit, ruach in the Hebrew, means the breath of God. I think it's really love's light made manifest to us when we choose light and love ourselves and leading from that place. Remembering to forgive rather than harboring anger, to show compassion even when we're tired rather than contempt, to be brave with our convictions and daring in sharing our joy. The Spirit is with us when we bring the memory and the stories of our loved ones along, passing on their legacy, retelling their bad jokes, failing miserably at one of their masterful recipes, just gathering together in the joy and memory of their Spirit. May Beth's story remind us that life is too short not to reach for our dreams, too short to be paralyzed with grief, too short to give up, too short not to take risks, too short not to choose joy, too short to settle with halfway. As we celebrate this incredible woman who is now with Spirit, creating a new world of wonder in the hereafter, let us ask ourselves as Mary Oliver, what is it that you plan to do with this one wild and precious life? To honor Beth and the other movers and builders and shakers and dreamers of her generation, some of you out there now, we can respond with inviting love's light into our lives. We can say yes to those in need and keep saying yes over and over again. We can give our time. We can say yes to sharing the best of ourselves this day and every day. May it be so. Amen. At this time, I would like to invite members of Beth's family, some by blood and probably others close friends who are like family, to come and share your own words of remembrance. And then following that, there'd be an opportunity for any of you from the community who'd like to share a word or a story or a bad joke, come up here and just share whatever it is that's on your own heart and mind. So please come as you are able. I think, Michael, we'll start with you.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Eha, Beth's son. On behalf of my sisters Nancy Blackman and Jeannie Eha and the entire family, I'd like to welcome you, those in attendance and also on the live stream, to a celebration of the life of Elizabeth Morrison Eha. You honor my mom and my family with your presence. My mom, Beth, was born in the panhandle of western Nebraska in the Mitchell Valley near Scotts Bluff in early January 1931. She was named Helen Elizabeth Morrison, but she always preferred to be called Beth. She grew up on a working ranch and farm, and she found a love there for animals, especially horses. One of her horses, Cherry, lived to be about 30 years old. That's quite old for a horse. And as kids, we were lucky enough to share time together, riding and sharing time with her and Mom. I especially recall trail rides on Cherry Creek with Mom and myself on Cherry, and Nancy and Jeannie being on Candy, which was Cherry's first foal. Those were very special times. Because of Mom, horses have always been a part of our daily lives. I enjoyed the times, especially, that Mom took me trail riding. They were few, but they were special. And one year at Peaceful Valley Scout Rank Camp, I was proud that I was able to control my horse because of what Mom had taught me about riding. When all of the rest of the scouts in the trail ride had the horses run for the barn on the way back home. Most of the other scouts walked the last couple of miles after getting bucked off, and I just laughed and said bye on the way back. My mom was passionate about many things in her life. She came to Colorado to go to CWC College, and then she transitioned to the CU Nursing School. She met my dad at a church function held at the pool in El Dorado Springs, west of Denver. They dated for a while and then married in 1954. She raised a family, loved horses, had a long nursing career, almost 60 years, researched family genealogy, enjoyed the family cabin, attended this church, which we all grew up in, and spent time writing stories about growing up on the farm or about pets or horses or life experiences. Because of Mom, my sisters Jeannie and Nancy are amazing horse people. I'm really proud of how my sisters have learned and worked with Mom over the years to create the Eha Arabian Farm. Anna, my niece, Nancy's daughter, joined the horse team when she was old enough to ride. Together, they have done everything to keep the horses: feeding, brushing, training, being in the ring, at the house, and riding in the horse shows when I was a kid. I was so pleased that they will continue the legacy of love of care of the horses that Mom started. They have taught the next generation of great grandkids about horses, including riding, brushing, and doing all the hard work around the barn to clean stalls and take care of the horses and still be smiling at the end of the day. Dad and I and the rest of the family helped where we could to build and repair stalls, mend fences. We built a new hay room and a tractor shed. They were joyous times. Several times during the summer is a special event that I just remember as always being the best. It includes flood irrigating the pasture. And that just keeps the grass growing. you've not lived until you've spent a day at the EHAs on irrigation day. It's always hot, slippery, water's running everywhere, dogs are running, kids are running, and the mud is slippery, let me tell you. We move irrigation tubes and tarps all over and keep the water flowing. Mom always helped by transporting the ditch tarps in the golf cart, and the dogs riding shotgun with her, which was a stitch. And she always helped fix the best lunches. Best part was we spent time together as a family with lots of laughter, a bit of shouting across the pasture when the water was getting away from us. But we have become much better at irrigating over the years as we have learned from our failures and have a good system at keeping the grass green. Beth was also a great seamstress. She would make hand-stitched quilts, and she was always making extra things around the family. I remember when I was a teenager, she made everybody frost-lined sleeping bags and coats. I remember the day that she started inserting the bags of down feathers into the slots created, and feathers started flying everywhere before she could sit at the sewing machine and sew the material together and closed. It was a hilarious sight when we were all covered with feathers until she figured out a much better process. My favorite activity each year has been making almond toffee with my mom at Christmas. Some years we also made peanut brittle, an annual tradition that has been passed down to my kids. You have to cook the ingredients just so and get the candy to the right color, just like the color of a paper sandwich bag. We have not used a candy thermometer in years, and we love the process. It was the best of times, and it will be a tradition that I will continue. I'm proud of my parents that they enjoyed serving others. Mom went on many missions through First Plymouth Church through Partners in Mission. I think she went on 13 different trips, Dad 4. She spoke almost fluent Spanish and did health clinics and loved on the people of the Dominican Republic. There are always stories that came from those trips that fascinated me about the third world, especially when Mom and Dad said, we ordered chicken for dinner and the chicken was just being walked through the dining room on the way to the kitchen. Mom also served as camp nurse at La Ferre Retreat and Conference Center in the Black Forest west of Colorado Springs. My parents loved spending time there and were tremendous supporters of that ministry. As a family, I remember special times there. Family time was important to Mom, and I loved the storytelling and laughter when my mom's sisters would come to town or we would be at a family reunion. The three sisters would laugh all the day long while visiting, and they enjoyed singing songs and then laugh even more. Mom, AKA Gran to the grandkids and grandchildren, was a nurse for almost 60 years, and then she transitioned to full-time care for my dad, who was Papa Bill. Dad had several non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer bouts and was also afflicted with Parkinson's. I honor my mom for her service to Dad during his last years before he passed in December of 2016. Since Dad passed, I have spent almost every Saturday morning with my mom, keeping up with the might do list. It was long, but it got better over time, and it was waiting for me each week. The last 4.5 years have been a very special time, allowing both of us to get to know each other even better as adults and turned into precious quality time together. The family has been so touched and comforted by the number of cards and words of encouragement we have received during this time since Mom passed. We're happy to know that Mom is now with my dad in heaven with the Lord. That sure brings me peace and joy. Other family members will tell stories of their time spent with Mom. Please come tell us your stories and visit after the service if you don't have a chance today up here. I leave you with this song that seems to say it all for me. I will miss my mom greatly, but will treasure the times and memories of time spent together. From this valley they say you are going, I shall miss your bright eyes and sweet smile, for you take with you all of the sunshine that has brightened brightened our pathway for a while. Then come sit by my side if you love me. Do not hasten to bid me adieu. Just remember the Red River Valley and the sun that has loved you so true. Then come sit by my side if you love me. Do not hasten to bid me adieu. Just remember the Red River Valley and the family that has loved you so true. Love you, Mom.
Okay, do you have a dry eye? I don't. We're going to be a little ornerier here. I am Amy, Michael's wife, Beth's daughter-in-law, and I saw another side of her. Are you ready? I joined the family when I married Mike 35 years ago, and while Beth became a very treasured friend, it did take a bit. As you know, she could be a force to be reckoned with, and to a new wife, often intimidating. It really wasn't until Bill's illness that our relationship truly and beautifully changed. So here I go. I'm going to tell you about my friend, Beth. I was in the habit of visiting Bill every Thursday while Beth could have a break and run some errands, get away for a little bit. The week after he passed, I showed up on Thursday. Honestly, I didn't know what else to do. Beth looked at me and said, "Why are you here? I don't need help. I'm doing fine." Pausing, I looked at her and said, "But I need your help." So she gave me one of the stairs, and you know her stairs, nodded, and as we mourned Bill together, our Thursday adventures began. The adventures took on a pattern. We'd get together, we'd decide what we wanted to do, and then we'd always meet Michael for lunch afterwards and tell him about the trouble we'd gotten into. Beth was into genealogy, so of course, first we decided we'd visit every cemetery we could find. Yes, a few stood out. We went to a new one, and it was brand new. There wasn't very many internments there yet, but it was a beautiful place. And as we walked around, enjoying all the flowers in the wind, all of a sudden, somebody talked to us. And they kept talking to us, and we moved on, and someone else spoke to us. In this new cemetery, they had stones for headstones, and they had speaker chips in them, so when you walked by, the people told you who they were. Man, it scared us. Yeah, we probably screamed a bit. We jumped a lot. Then we got the giggles, and we were asked to leave. So next, we decided we would go to Fairmont Cemetery to look up some family plots there. It's huge and glorious. We got lost for 2 hours. We never found the family plots, but we did sit down with 2 maintenance workers who were digging a grave and told us how to repair and reset headstones. And we had a lovely visit. And most importantly, they told us how to get out. Oh, yes. Our favorite, though, was Littleton Cemetery. And as we wandered around all of the beautiful statues and stones and family plots, Beth would share stories of Memorial Days growing up, where her family would all gather and have picnic on the gravesite, kids play games, singing, the sisters giggling and laughing. You all remember that? And all kinds of tales. It was amazing what you could learn wandering around a quiet cemetery. Oh, let's see. Next, Beth loved thrift stores. Now, you could only go on a yellow tag day because that was half off, and the rule was never, ever buy anything at full price. We'd hit all the stores looking for candlewick glassware. This was a favorite of hers and ours, and we found quite a bit. Kids' things for the playhouse, all kinds of dress-up wigs that have made it up there. And of course, I always found something that was not on sale, and we'd argue through the whole store whether I could get it or not, and I would. And we'd go to lunch, and she would tell Mike how bad I was, and that I didn't respect her and didn't listen to her, and I paid full price. And Mike would just shake his head. We really had a belly laugh, though, the day we picked up Beth, and she was hunting for a watch battery. Her battery had died, and she was fed up with the watch repairman. She was really ticked off. And it wasn't until we got to lunch that we found out why. He only had a battery with a 5-year warranty to sell her. She didn't want it. She only planned on living 3 years, and it would waste 2 years of warranty. Next, we decided on our adventures to go to a pawn shop. We'd never been to one, so we went to a downtown, shady pawn shop. Well, we raised eyebrows when we went in, and I was a little intimidated, but soon Beth had them all eating out of her hand. She began talking to them in Spanish, asking questions, and I found myself wearing brass knuckles, which I also later found out were illegal. They pulled out knives, debated whose was sharpest. Then they told me which gun I had to buy for my personal protection. And they pulled out all these guns that I had never held in my life. Oh, that lady was fearless. It was a day. Our adventures continued for 4.5 years. They took us all over. We talked about everything. We argued, we debated, we cried, we laughed a lot. And early on, we decided what was said in the car stayed in the car, and we honored that. It allowed us both to share freely. We argued, religion was a big argument for us. We debated back and forth. She had her opinions, I had mine. And thank the Lord, he guided the car and kept us safe. We came to some really treasured conclusions. Oh, we argued the finer points of sumo wrestling, how to teach me to make pierogies, tears when dear pets died, laughter at making pickles with no vinegar. It wasn't my fault, it wasn't on the recipe. Dr. Pole, Ollie classes, everything. We took drives that ended in empty reservoirs or on dirt hiking trails. And I never heard the end of that one because cars weren't allowed on that hiking trail. And I always had to back up at least once during any drive we took because Beth loved my car's backup camera. She messed with it, wanted to make it work better. I'm sharing our adventures for 2 reasons. One, what I learned about Beth. She was always curious. She wanted to learn everything. There was nothing that made her eyes sparkle more than a good argument, a debate about politics during the Trump era. That was fun too. She kept up on world happenings, town happenings, horse trends, anything that piqued her interest. She always wanted to know more. Secondly, is what I learned during our car talks. I learned of the deep childhood hurts that colored the rest of her life. I learned her pride in her farming heritage, of continued self-reliance, the love of Nebraska and open land. She shared the pain and anger of losing the precious time with her husband Bill as he fought Parkinson's and cancer. The pride of her nursing career. In the car, she spoke of how proud she was of her children. Nancy, she loved you. She admired the strong, determined woman you are, balancing work, husband, kids, horses, grandkids. She'd say, you got the good parts of her. You were a woman she looked up to. Jean, your mom was blown away by you, the work you do. She would sit there after visiting Lockheed. Okay, Jean works at Lockheed Martin. There's several other you in here. Jean took her, Beth, to visit Lucy. Is that right? Before Lucy's was sent off to be launched. Beth was blown away that she, a Nebraska farm girl, had a daughter that was sending things into the far reaches of space. It was amazing. She respected you in your chosen career and was proud of you. And not to mention her love of Pooch and Cola, the dogs, especially Cola when he climbed in her lap. Oh, and handsome Michael, you are precious. I'm not going to look at you doing this. Your strength and gentleness were a constant that Beth counted on and leaned into. You became a man she could admire and respect. Beth's grandkids and great-grandkids were a source of endless love and kids these days, conversations. I think they were the one area Beth's generational beliefs kind of shone through a bit. Yeah, she meddled in everything and made her opinions known in all of your lives. She had definite ideas of what you should do and shouldn't do. And in some ways, she truly didn't know what to do about your generation, and things she said came out judgmental. But please know, she loved each one of you. She may not have understood certain things, but she was proud of her grandkids and her great-grandkids. Let me finish by sharing our last Thursday adventure. After a morning of puzzle making, we joined Michael at Stern Park for our picnic lunch. The small gazebo on the north side had become our go-to place during the last year. We'd witnessed COVID weddings at the park, professional tree climbing contests, wandered the rose garden and counted geese, and always said hi to the horseshoe man. As with many other days, lunch was spent telling stories and people watching. We had found this spot by driving through an alley, and at the end we came out to this little north side park. So of course, when we headed home, we had to take any alley we could find, and we did. And it wasn't long before we got lost and traveled all through Littleton finding our way out. On that day, we were lost. We looked at the sun and decided we'd go that way and take the first left. And we did. It was into an alley we had never been into before. This alley was beautiful. It was overgrown with so many flowers the car could barely fit through. Trumpet vines in full bloom with just tumbled all over the fences and onto the road. Sunflowers and cosmos mixed with other vines to fill any available space. We were in awe as we drove down this slowly. I was watching the butterflies flit in front of the car when Beth yelled at me, "Stop! Back up now!" I thought, "Yes, ma'am." When I quit bobbing from the brake, I backed up. She rolled down the window and she started grabbing things out the window. And I turned around, whoa, and she said, "Whoo." She stuffed raspberries in my mouth. There was a raspberry bush full of fruit this late time of year on the side of the alley. She was picking those things as fast as she could, stuffing them in her mouth. If I ever said anything, she'd stuff them in my mouth. And we sat there and ate just about all of those. We started to giggle, ate more, and then we got to laughing because we had raspberry juice all over. And it was magical. Who would have thought in an alley? We giggled all the way home. The entire alley was something we never imagined. When we got home, I told Beth I loved her as she got out of the car. She paused, holding the door, and said, "It's good to have a best friend. Love ya." She walked away. And that was our last Thursday adventure. But boy, the memories will be forever, and I'll treasure the lessons I learned, the precious woman she was, and that I came to know that, and how she helped me grow to be a better woman, I hope. So that's my story of Beth. Thank you all.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julia. I am Gran's youngest grandchild. Probably about 10 years ago now, for my 18th birthday, Gran gave me and my cousin Laura these books. They're called Commonplace Books. And in the front cover, she wrote that commonplace books are a way to compile knowledge, usually by writing them down. These books became significant in early modern Europe. These books are collections of sayings. They're scrapbooks filled with items of every kind: medical recipes, quotes, letters, poems, tables of weights and measures, proverbs, prayers, legal formulas. Commonplaces can be used by readers, writers, students, and humanists as an aid for remembering useful concepts or facts you have learned. And each commonplace book is unique to its creator's interests. Sometimes I think she didn't really expect me to keep this or cherish it as much as I do, but she wrote some really interesting things in it for me, and a couple years ago, I gave it back to her because I wanted her to write more in it. And she put some really nice things in it. There's some family history, photos of her and my grandpa as babies and as adults, her picture from her graduation of nursing school, their wedding photo, and most important to me, some stories and advice and poems. So, I think everyone knew what sort of woman she was. And I had an interesting relationship with her because I think I was able to see past her hardness and her trauma and see the woman that was really beneath all of that. And the woman that comes through in these writings is that woman. I thought it would be appropriate to share her words. When I was young and just beginning my long life, I imagined where I would live. I would have a husband who thought I was really someone special. I didn't desire to be the wife of a farmer. I knew when I graduated from the town high school that I would leave my childhood home forever. I was fortunate that Denver was 200 miles from my home in Nebraska, and my mother encouraged me to broaden my horizons, something that she didn't have an opportunity to do. I have always loved Denver. When I started college here in 1949, people were still calling it a cow town. My friends at college rode the number 40 streetcar down Colfax Avenue to the shopping area in downtown Denver. We attended movies in the theaters and concerts at the Denver Auditorium Theater, which was eventually torn down and replaced by the Buell Theater. We attended the stock show in January in the old stadium. I attended Colorado Women's College for 2 years and graduated with an AA in arts, which didn't prepare me for a job. So I applied to the University of Colorado Medical School for a BS in nursing. I spent my adult years until I was 80 working, caring for hospital patients. Surgical intensive care was my specialty as an RN. Our 3 children worked very hard for their degrees and have been honest and hardworking members of society. Bill and I are so proud of them, and their offspring are carrying on our family traditions. She also wrote a bit about our family cabin, the Missing Link. She said, "The Missing Link is our special family cabin in Gilpin County. The many hours we spent in the quiet of the mountains were special times for Bill and me. The quiet closeness became our church experience on Sundays. The togetherness we experienced there, we could not have had anywhere else, and my hope is that you and your family will have the same experiences." And this is the last couple pages that she wrote me, which I find very interesting. She writes, Love is stronger than death. I believe in upholding reverence for all of life. Spring was a special time at our farm. Baby animals were being born, calves, lambs, occasionally foals. My nemesis, my baby brother Clinton, was born March 21st to my father's joy. Now it's Clint Morrison and son. I don't have to deal with these girls anymore. Kittens, puppies, bum lambs, calves which needed extra care were always my special friends. The odor of newly plowed soil always takes me home, even though it might be my backyard in the city. My favorite place to be was with my best friend, my horse Cherry. In the canyons adjacent to the Oregon Trail over the hills at Scottsbluff National Monument we rode. At that time, no one else I know of ever went to that particular area. It belonged to Cherry and me. My imagination and dreams were there. My goal now is to dance as long as I can and to pass on when there is not a dance left in me. Why is the world the way it is? Society needs to work together in use of effective knowledge that interacts with Earth and the complexities of life knowledge. We are responsible for what happens. If we are inside the universe, can we really know what it is? What are the questions to make sense of gravity and quantum mechanics? Mathematics seems to be the only language to describe the complexities of this universe. It's really special to me to have this book, and that so much of it is in her handwriting, and that she wrote so freely in it to me. To me, it signifies the things about her that she wants me to remember, and I'll always remember these parts of her.
Now everybody stand up and take a deep breath. Lift your arms up and breathe. Relax a little. Well, anyway, I want to tell you who I am. I'm one of Beth's longest and oldest friends. My name is Tricia Dickinson, and I'm from Montrose, Colorado. And I want to read to you a poem that was written. Can you hear me? How's that? All right. Now, this is the third time, and if I don't get it right now, I'm going home. I would like to read to you a poem that was handed to me. It is written by Janet Hartley Humphreys, who is a good friend of Beth's and also a friend of mine. And it goes, I think that I shall never pen a poem lovely as a friend. I speak of my friend from the ranch country, the one who is learning a lady to be. She seemed quite sure of herself in a pinch and knew that her studies were always a cinch. A cowgirl supreme who rode horses to fame. She regaled us with tales of ranch chores and games. One game has stood out in my mind all these years when she picked up the cow pies from the giant-sized steers and threw them like frisbees aimed at the chest of her sweet little brother, whom mother loved best. She never leaves doubt about what she is thinking, and she giggles a lot when cerveza she's drinking. If giggles get started while being with this friend, we cannot stop laughing till late summer's end. When discussions were heated, this friend called about by proclaiming the truth from the sage horse's mouth. She takes on a job with vigor and drive and inspires those around her to please look alive. She loves children and dogs and an eehaw named Bill and horses and carts that can pull a long haul. Her recordings by quilt of the Morrison story has brought from her family all kinds of glory. She's befriended each one and that's why we're here. So I've written a toast to commend her good cheer. She's a nurse to the end with skills quite unique, with long years of practice in sterile technique. But she cleans up the horse muck with gusto and dash, with the same pair of hands that she cleans up a gash. Thank you for listening to me and to Beth's wonderful family. She was tip-tops.
My name is Anna, and I am another granddaughter. Thank you all for coming. I see many familiar faces that I have not seen for a long time. Because of Gran, I have had the incredible experience of living life with horses, which I am very thankful for. And in turn, I was very close to her. She loved telling stories about her life, which she enjoyed writing and then reading back to us. She also loved researching her family history, gardening, spending time with animals, and watching the incredible Dr. Pol on TV. More recently, like many others during the pandemic, we all did puzzles together at her dining room table. She came to Colorado because she, quote, did not want to marry someone with milk on their shoes and fodder in their hair. Luckily, she married my grandpa. She first attended CWC to also learn how to become a lady, which she was not interested in, and so she went to CU to become a nurse. Gran had a career that partook in the evolution of modern medicine, at a time where most women were expected to have careers in the home. She cared for patients in iron lungs during the polio pandemic, the first successful pediatric kidney transplant, early heart transplants, and many other monumental events in medical history. As children, during the fall, she would show up mysteriously to pick us up from school, which we lived close enough to walk, only to lock the car door to give us our annual flu shot. My most favorite stories that she told were of the scores of horses she knew throughout her lifetime. Gran remembered the name of every single one, the exact way they looked, their personalities, and especially the lesson each one taught her. From her favorite horse, Cherry, she had as a teenager, to every foal she and my grandpa bred as their business, Iha Arabians, she remembered them all as special individuals. From this wisdom, I learned that horses may be one of the greatest teachers we could possibly have. Every horse teaches you a different life lesson, so significant that each one is unforgettable. She snored louder than anyone else on this planet. When traveling to horse shows, we often shared hotel rooms, and I would lie awake at night thinking that it would be quieter to sleep in the barn with the horses. Although she is gone from this earth, Gran will forever live in our memories. I am lucky to have so many from all the time that we spent together. I can carry her always, and because of this, I never have to feel parted from her. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today to remember and celebrate the life of my grandma, Beth Iha. My name is John, and I'm the oldest of Beth's grandkids. We knew her as Gran. As the oldest, I had the opportunity to know Gran for almost 40 years. I spent a lot of time with Gran when I was young. She and my grandfather had a large house on a piece of property in Littleton. On her property, she had horses, a barn, riding rings, trees, all kinds of animals, dirt, plenty of work to go around. All the things a growing boy needs to be free and get into trouble. Our family spent a lot of time together at her house, helping her and each other on the tasks that were necessary to maintain a property like that. That brought our family close, and we spent a lot of time together. We all have Gran and her late husband, Bill Iha, to thank for that. Gran was a very unique person. She was a lover and a fighter. She was helpful and friendly to most. She was a worker and a provider. She liked watching others enjoy themselves doing the things that they loved. When I was young, our family was pretty involved in showing horses. Therefore, Gran drove a big truck to pull the horse trailers, and I always thought that was so cool. She would drive through the mud, she'd drive over big bumps, and she was never afraid to use her truck as a truck. We'd drive around town with 5 or 10 dogs in the back. As a young boy, I'd ride in the passenger seat so proud and happy, and I thought we looked so cool in that truck. As I grew older, Gran was always there for me. She taught me right from wrong, the way a man is supposed to be. When I caused trouble, she did not hold back in the punishments. She used to grab me by the muscle between my shoulder and my neck and squeeze super hard. We called it the Vulcan death grip. Even as a grown man, she had the strength to drop me to my knees, and did regularly. We used to ride bikes together, visit zoos and museums, spend a lot of time in the mountains, and get dirty. She even volunteered at my elementary school. She was the first computers teacher my school ever had. She loved me very much, and I loved her. When I was old enough to make my own decisions, she was still always there. She helped me with projects I did in high school, helped me build wooden go-karts I'd coast down the biggest hill we could find, and even purchased me my first motorized motor scooter for doing good in school. As a young adult, she would always check on me regularly, let me come raid her fridge, and would help me financially when I'd get into a bind. When my wife and I decided to get married, she offered her house for our wedding reception and her cabin for our wedding. It was the perfect place for a lot of people to enjoy themselves. Now that I'm almost 40 years old, I have 2 children. I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. My kids were Gran's only 2 great grandkids. My kids loved going to her house for the same reason I loved going there as a boy. They always loved to see Gran, and Gran always made it a special point to make them special Gran cookies. We will all miss her very much. We will all still go to her house to take care of the horses and the property, but now that both of my grandparents have passed, even with all the activities, the real reason we went there is gone. About 2 months ago, Gran and I went to breakfast together. It was very nice to spend time with just her and I. I sat across from her and was able to appreciate her smile and infectious laughter. On the way home, I stopped and filled her car up with gas. She was so appreciative of that small thing that I did for her, and she wouldn't stop thanking me. It made me think about all of the thank yous that I owe her. Never in my life will I be able to think of all the kind and thoughtful things that she has done for me. However, I will constantly think of her and all of the things that she has taught me over the years. Although she is no longer here to help me and offer her advice, she has given me the tools that I need to be a good person, and I will forever be grateful to her for that. At 90 years old, we were lucky enough to have Gran around a lot longer than many people have their grandmothers. She outlived all of her siblings, most of her friends, and her loving husband. She has now joined them in heaven. I'm sure many smiles, laughter, and embraces were shared when she arrived. Selfishly, I wish she was still here, but she has left us with many memories and lessons that I will always remember. Gran, you will be missed, but thank you so much for everything that you have done for me and your family. Every day your teachings, lessons, and advice will be used, and I thank you, and I think of you every time your examples are followed. I love you, and we will meet again someday. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jenny, and I'm a friend of Beth's. And I was just going to read a poem that was very important to her, and I think it's very appropriate for today. The young mother set her foot on the path of life. "Is the way long?" she asked, and her guide said, "Yes, and the way is hard. And you will be old before you reach the end of life, but the end will be better than the beginning. But the young woman was happy, and she could not believe that anything could be better than these years. So she played with her children, gathered flowers for them along the way, and bathed them in the clear streams, and the sun shone on them, and life was good, and the young mother cried, "Nothing will be lovelier than this." Then night came, and storm, and the children shook with fear and cold, and the mother drew them close and covered them with her mantle. And the children said, "Oh, mother, we are not afraid, for you are near, and no harm can come." And the mother said, "This is better than the brightest of day, for I have taught my children courage." And the morning came, and there was a hill ahead, and the children climbed and grew weary. But all times she said to the children, "A little patience, and we are there." And so the children climbed, and when they reached the top, they said, we could not have done it without you, mother." And the mother, when she lay down that night, she looked up at the stars and said, "This is a better day than the last, for my children have learned fortitude in the face of hardness. Yesterday I gave them courage, today I gave them strength." And the next day came strange clouds, which darkened the earth, clouds of war and hate and evil. And the children groped and stumbled, and the mother said, "Look up, lift your eyes to the light." And the children looked and saw above the clouds the everlasting glory, and it guided them beyond the darkness. And that night the mother said, "This is the best day of all, for I have shown my children God." And the days went on, and the weeks, and the months, and the years, and the mother grew old, and she was little and bent. But her children were tall and strong, and when the way was rough, they lifted her. For she was light as a feather, and at last they came to a hill, and beyond the hill they could see a shining road and golden gates flung wide. And the mother said, "I have reached the end of my journey, and now I know that the end is better than the beginning. For my children can walk alone, and their children after them." And the children said, "You will always walk with us, mother, even when you have gone through the gates." And they stood and watched her as she went on alone, and the gates closed after her, and they said, "We cannot see her, but she is with us still. A mother like ours is more than a memory. She is a living presence."
Thank you. At this time, the family would like to invite any from the community who would like to share a word, a reflection, a story, a joke, a smile on behalf of Beth. You're invited to come now.
My name's Beth Ertz, and I'll try to be brief. I used to call Beth Iha, and she would say, "Hi, Beth." And I'd say, "Hi, Beth." And yes, we always giggled. She was 90, I'm 68. We became good friends because of First Plymouth. She and I both were on the outreach ministry together many years ago. And she encouraged me to join Partners in Mission and go to the Dominican Republic. And I went 9 times, she went 13. And it was probably part of a life that maybe you all didn't know too much about. But what I learned about her was, yes, many of the things that you said today, her strength, her courage, her fortitude. Yes, Amy, she was a force to be reckoned with. But I am too in my own way. And so we became fast and furious friends, even though there was an age difference. And she was my mentor, she was my guide, she was my counselor. My mother died 20 years ago, and so we always talked about so many things together. I just saw her in the spring, and I just want to tell you that she talked so much about all of you. She showed me pictures of every one of you, and I do know who all of you are because every time I saw her, she reminded me about you and how much she loved you and Bill. They were special for me, and my heart was broken when she died. And I know yours was too. But I have so many fond memories with her in the Dominican Republic. We slept, ate, and did nursing together in the Dominican Republic. I too am a registered nurse. And she showed me the way, and we were able, I think we learned more from the people who lived in the Dominican Republic than they learned from us. It was an experience of a lifetime, and it changed my world. And I thank her for that. Thank you very much.
My name is Tex, and I had a couple of run-ins with Beth. And one is your wedding reception dinner they had over at their house. Amy and my wife were serving, and I was late, and I don't know, I came back by their house in my motorbike, and I pulled in the driveway and parked, and they already had me a plate ready, so I took this plate. Food went and sat down at this table. And very short time, there's the sweetest little lady, Mike, I don't remember, Catherine, she was what, 90s? Yeah, she saw me sit down, she came sit down next to me and said, who are you, and do you know the Ehas? And I said, no, I don't, who are they? And so she pointed on and said, you don't know these people? I said, no, when I'm riding around on a motorbike, if I see a function like this going on, I figure nobody knows who you are and most of the people there, so I have a nice dinner. Well, Catherine scooted away from the table, and we're looking for Beth. She got to have her boot this dude out. It was really a cute exchange. Now, Beth and I kind of like homemade ice cream, and we went over to Mike and Amy's for a picnic, and I had this electric homemade ice cream machine going, and we were talking away. We moved it into the garage because of noise, and we were talking away, and she, how do you know when it's done? I said, well, this thing's got a sensor in it that when it gets too much torque on the motor, it stops. And she said, when does it stop? I looked over and the smoke's coming out of the garage. I said, excuse me, Beth, I think I stopped. Went in and the smoke bellowed out. The motor didn't quite work the way it's supposed to, but we had 2 points.
Bobby. I am Amy's mom, and Mike's my son-in-law, my favorite son-in-law. He's also the only one. And I was going to say that I really didn't want to speak. I just wanted to get rid of this mask. But Beth and I shared many, many things. We shared kids together. We shared grandchildren. We shared a love for quilting. We shared a love for horses. And I loved their toffee, which I still get today. But the other thing that we shared was a wicked sense of humor. we had more fun when we were together because we would laugh and have jokes that only she and I shared, much to everybody's dismay. But we will miss her, but I look around at everybody here, and she definitely lives on. And bless all of you. You had a neat mom.
I started walking up and my mother said, uh-oh. Hello again, I'm Laura, one of the other grandkids as well. We have a lot of us here, which is great. And that's one of the fun memories of the tea parties at Grand's. All of us would dress up in our best, whether that was a dress-up dress or one of our Sunday dresses or just jeans. But we would always have to bring a stuffed animal and then go over to Grand's, and she would have all of her china set out, her fancy little sugar tongs and things, and we always added way too much sugar to the tea because we're kids, why not? And she would let us, and then wonder why we have tummy aches later. But she would always help out with that too, because she was, as we said, she's a wonderful nurse. She would always know what was going on. If one of us were feeling bad one day, Dad would call her up and just be like, hey, Mom, what's this? Oh, she's fine? Okay. So one of the other things is when we were teenagers, young adults, you would always have to be careful around wearing jeans with holes in them around her because she was a bit more traditional. I remember, I think the first time I wore them, and I hope the last time, I walked up near her and she said, hey, Laura, come here, you have something on your jeans. And so I came close, I was like, what is it? And she hooked her finger in and ripped my jeans down and just gave me, there, now you have some more holes in there. Thanks, Grant. She also had a favorite word that she would use whenever we were taking photos to help people smile. And I'm not gonna say it because we're in church right now, but it's S-H-I-T. And she would always say that right before the photo was taken. And one of my favorite photos of us together was from my wedding, and she said it and scared one of my other aunts. She's like, you said that in church. It's like, no, I didn't. But she was very filled with laughter and a bit of orneriness, but a very intelligent and most very much missed lady. Thank you.
So Beth and I are exactly 30 years apart. So in January, she turned 90 and I turned 60. So for some reason, that was our bond, and we just became fast friends. But the funny story I want to share is, you know the golf cart that she had? Well, if you want to go on a picnic across Bowles, you have to drive the golf cart into the incoming traffic along Bowles to get to the sidewalk on the other side. So on many occasions, I am in a golf cart with a 90-year-old woman, and we're crossing Bowles, driving into oncoming traffic, looking ahead just to see, is the light red and no one is gonna drive into us? And so we would just take this, we did many times, take that precarious route over to the park across in Grant Ranch, into Grant Ranch. And that was just the kind of person Beth was. She was in there for a challenge and an adventure and just a fun spirit. And I really admire her gumption and all that. And I hope I have the same when I get to be that age. I hope I am.
This is Ava. Ava is Gran's 7-year-old great-granddaughter, and she has a few words that she would like to say.
My gran was
don't think we can top that. So thank you for sharing about your great-grandmother. Thank you all. I know that you're invited to a reception at Beth's house, and you can see Michael or a family member about that. There are so many more stories in these seats. I know they're going to be told for a really long time. I feel the privilege in the air just knowing more of Beth's story. So thank you for sharing with each other. At this time, we will continue in our remembrance with prayer and intercession. So let us pray together. O God, our strength and our Redeemer, giver of life and conqueror of death, we praise you with humble hearts. With faith in your great mercy and wisdom, we entrust Beth to your eternal care. We praise you for your steadfast love for her all the days of her life. We thank you that for all that she was to those who loved her and to her faithfulness, to her family and her community, you were with her and are with her still. We thank you that for Beth, all sickness and sorrow are ended and death itself is past, and that she has entered the home where all your people gather in peace. Keep us all in communion with your faithful people in every time and place, that at last we may rejoice together in love with you and the Spirit, one God, forever. O God, whose days are without end and whose mercies cannot be counted, awaken us to the shortness and uncertainty of human life. By your Holy Spirit, lead us in faithfulness all of our days. When we have served you in our generation, may we be gathered with those who have gone before, having the testimony of a good conscience, in the communion of your holy people, in the confidence of a certain faith, in the comfort of a saving hope, in favor with you, our God, and at perfect peace with the world. Amen. From the poem, I think it's printed in your order of service on the back. Death is nothing at all. You can probably hear in her own words something similar. I'll just read a few lines, but I commend that to your own reading at your leisure. Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. All is well. Nothing is hurt. Nothing is lost. One brief moment and all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again. Go in peace, friends, remembering the love and life and the laughter of your beloved Beth.